Well, thank you, Speaker, and it is so good to see that depending on whether it suits our purposes or not, our principles on leave, as well as others, can change as they need to change. We certainly appreciate that. And not to put a damper on anything, but I have about a 75-minute speech here, so that puts us to what time? Sorry, colleagues, the rest of you aren't going to be able to speak. You may as well go home. And Senator Gold and I will take care of the rest of the business. I was reminded by my lovely wife today that I made a mistake earlier today when I said I had voted with Senator Gold, and she said I was supposed to remind him that in fact Senator Gold had voted with the opposition in the last vote, not the opposition voting with him. So I want that corrected for the record, please, Senator Gold. We appreciate that you voted with us. Colleagues, I rise to speak to Bill C-28, an act to amend the criminal code concerning self-induced extreme intoxication. And I have already said that I will be supporting this bill, and I'm going to spend at least 10 minutes telling you why I shouldn't, and then I will turn myself into a pretzel like those that give leave one day and don't the next, and vote for something that I'm telling you for 10 minutes that we shouldn't ever support. This bill purportedly responds to the ruling of the Supreme Court of Canada in Brown and Sullivan last month, which found that Section 33.1 of the Criminal Code was unconstitutional. The ruling by the Supreme Court came down on May 13th. We heard nothing from the government on this matter for 5 weeks. I think the Prime Minister was on an airplane. Then suddenly the bill was tabled just before the end of session on June 17th. No debate was scheduled on the bill for 4 full days, colleagues. Then we were told that the bill we have before us, Bill C-28, must not only be adopted in extreme haste, it must essentially be adopted with no substantive legislative review at all, which of course is what our friend and colleague Senator Patterson was concerned about earlier today. Colleagues, for 5 weeks we heard absolutely nothing. And then suddenly, as is customary with this government, panic set in. The government claims that in the 5 weeks from the court decision to last week, it was busily consulting on this bill. It claims that since the court rendered its decision, it has consulted with about 30 groups. That's quite a large number. Minister Lametti claimed during our brief committee of the whole session with him this week that these groups almost unanimously approve of the government's response to this bill. This is surprising, colleagues, on several levels. First, it is surprising that the government was able to consult in a fulsome way with 30 groups in just 1 month. But that's what they say they did. On other bills, this appears to have been completely beyond the government's capacity. Just this past Monday, the Senate passed Bill S-7, which was also a government response to a court ruling from October 2020. That bill was introduced in response to a decision by the Alberta Court of Appeal striking down a section in the Customs Act. On that matter, the government was given 18 months by the court to introduce legislation responding to its ruling. Yet, not only was that deadline missed, but as senators found out when the bill was studied at committee, the government had actually consulted with absolutely no one prior to introducing the bill. That was an extremely complex bill involving extremely complex legal issues. Now we have this bill which also deals with an extremely complex legal issue. Yet, if we are to take the minister's word for it, in just 1 month, the government was able to fulsomely consult with groups who unanimously approved the government's course of action. Colleagues, I have to say that this stretches the imagination. I believe that there is another explanation as to why the government took so long to introduce this legislation. It is quite simply due to the fact that its priorities are elsewhere. This is not a government that pays a great deal of attention to policy details. It throws borrowed money at problems that does not pay much attention to how money is spent. Makes you wonder, colleagues, that those of us, or you, that voted an hour ago for a completely out of control budget, completely out of control budget. And there are those even that call themselves conservatives that voted for that. I find that strange, extremely strange, that we have conservatives that voted for it, conservatives who ran on a platform of being a conservative. And yet here they are. I'm not sure of you, I'm not sure how many people listen to Simon and Garfunkel. I'm of that age. And as Simon and Garfunkel sang, what was the way they sang that? About prayer?
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Heaven holds a place for those who pray.
Yes, heaven holds a place.
So there is hope, conservative colleagues. There is hope for you if you repent. Chuck Cadman, a few years ago, voted to keep the brine, you know, this is, colleagues, what happens when we have a 2-hour dinner break. That promised to keep the Paul Martin government alive. And he said after he voted, I have to now go and ask God for forgiveness. God forgave him, and he will forgive you. And it does a lot of signaling and proclaiming, however, colleagues. I am sure that in relation to this decision by the Supreme Court, someone saw a potential political opportunity. It was an opportunity to look decisive. I do not intend to speak very much about the substance of the bill, as you may have already realized. That is better left to others. Senator Patterson has a lot more to say about that. But I do note that many senators in this chamber have in only a short time raised some very significant issues. Senator Carignan referenced a learned professor at the University of Montreal, one who specialized in criminal defense, who argues certain dimensions of extreme intoxication may not be covered by this bill at all. Senator Cotter said on Tuesday that, and I quote, "What I worry about here is that the proposal, as heartfelt as it is, will miss the mark that almost nobody will be able to be convicted under this provision." Senator Cotter and I didn't start off in the best of terms, but we have become to respect, I certainly at least have become to respect his tremendous knowledge that he has and the expertise he brings to the legal committee, and I respect that quote. Senator Pate quoted Sean Fagan, one of the defense counsels in the case in question, who said that this law will be entirely ineffective due to the burden placed on prosecutors. And I recognize an informed concern and skepticism when I see it. and it is informed concern, and I'm sure skepticism, Senator Pate. And this is why I'm so concerned about the way in which the government is attempting to frog march this bill through both the House and the Senate. And even that it is doing so badly. On Tuesday, the government's vaunted hybrid system crashed, and we all know that. We shut down here because we could no longer operate. Fortunately, our leader in the government has not, to this point, suggested that we continue with this horrible system of hybrid sits. And I have the fullest confidence in him that he will not come forward with that, and I want that enhancer that I trust Senator Gold that he will not bring forward this. But the government's House Leader, Mark Holland, wants and was just given another year of this system that has already failed us so many times. Why? Because he says there might be another pandemic coming, colleagues. There just might be. Dr. Revelia, have you heard of a pandemic that's coming? No. Thank you. Thank you. There are signs. There are signs. No pandemic coming, and yet Mark Holland, we need to have another hybrid year so that we can all stay home and do whatever we do from home. If we are honest, this new approach where people have to be in Parliament less and less is really the government's more important priority nowadays. And that, colleagues, is sad. That is sad, because hybrid is obviously popular with both Liberal and NDP caucuses. But none of us here are NDP or Liberal caucuses, are we? I don't think so. We're all independents. We voted independent. Oh no, we all voted in favor. No, we didn't all vote. But a lot of us voted in favor of an NDP Liberal budget just a few minutes ago. But nevertheless, it is popular for the same reason that is popular with many in this chamber. One can sit at home, look into the camera for a few hours, read a couple of questions, and pretend that one is a great servant of the public. It is clear who wins from hybrid sessions. Parliamentarians, quite frankly, who don't want to show up for work. And I said today, when anybody says, with all due respect, you're probably going to say something disrespectful. Senator Monsignor remembers when I said it. And I do want to respect every colleague here. I really do. And I do respect every colleague here. But I do not believe that this is the way to conduct parliamentary business. It is clear who wins from hybrid sessions. But Canadians who are counting on us to undertake serious reviews of government legislation lose, colleagues. That is what we are seeing in relation to this very bill, C-28. But even for this government, the process of Bill C-28 sinks to a new low. What the process around Bill C-28 illustrates is that of a government in chaos. In the face of the multiple challenges that now confront our country, both domestically and internationally, we have a government consistently focusing on the wrong priorities. Not only are its priorities wrong, it executes them badly. Look at Bill C-11. It turned into a complete fiasco in the House of Commons. And that happened for a second time. The government having learned absolutely nothing from the fiasco that surrounded the previous Bill C-10. Consider Bill S-7, which we passed in this chamber earlier this week, but only after it had to be virtually rewritten by our Senate National Security and Defense Committee. Then, we have the pending fiasco on Bill C-21. That is nothing more than a gratuitous attack on lawful sport shooters, even as gun crime in our cities continue to rise. And then we see what the Prime Minister and Minister Blair did with the Commissioner of the RCMP just to promote that legislation. Colleagues, the list goes on and on. In all of this mismanagement, it is Canadians, colleagues, who end up losing. Canadians, colleagues, deserve so much better. We owe Canadians so much more. I only hope and trust that very soon they will have a competent government. And I won't blow our horn anymore. I did that before dinner. But I truly hope that we will have a competent government that finally and actually puts Canadians first. Colleague, that has not been done by this government. It doesn't matter how you paint it. It doesn't matter what caucus you are from in this chamber. We have a government that has put themselves first, not Canadians. We need to, colleagues, turn that around. We need to, colleagues, today to approve Bill C-28. Why? Not because of this government, not because of their competence, not even because this is a good bill, but as has been said by others, it is a bill that is in a step in the right direction. It is a bill that protects women, girls, children from heinous crimes that we have talked about over and over again. And that, colleagues, is why at the end of tonight, whether we like it, whether we support this government, and I don't think there's any illusions that I do not, but this is a bill, colleagues, that I truly, honestly believe in my heart of hearts deserves unanimous consent. And I hope you will support that tonight. Thank you.